The Tennessee Titans should beat the Dolphins, but the reality is this team cannot be trusted. I'll preview Monday Night Football on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. The Tennessee Titans take on the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. I'm going to preview the matchup on today's show. We're going to go over my keys to victory. We're going to look at the players to watch, and I'm going to make my game predictions, score, fantasy, gambling, everything you need to know. Before we dive into it, do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. And if you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. I am going to be going live immediately after the Monday Night Football game ends, breaking down all the action. And of course, we will continue to talk about it as the Tennessee Titans head to their bye week next weekend. So with that being said, though, we got to start with my keys to victory for this game. And we got to start on the defensive side of the ball because you look at the situation for the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to be playing Snoop Huntley at quarterback. That is confirmed at this time. But they're going to be without Teron Armstead, their stud left tackle. They got some injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. The Dolphins are a broken team. They're a beaten team. So on defense, the Titans simply cannot allow the Dolphins to do what the Packers did last week, and that is break tackles and make plays bigger than they should be. So my number one key to victory for the Titans is tackle, tackle, tackle. The Tennessee Titans must tackle the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins have a ton of speed. So it may not be the easiest thing to do. Last week, according to Denard Wilson, the Titans defensive coordinator, the Titans missed 15 tackles for over 100 extra yards for the Green Bay Packers. If the Titans do that with Jalen Waddle, with Tyreek Hill, with Devon Achane, with Snoop Huntley, the new quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, if the Titans do that and miss a bunch of tackles, they're going to give these speedy skill position players from the Miami Dolphins a ton of extra yards. It's going to be back-breaking stuff. It's going to be third and long conversions. It's going to be extra yards on first down. It's going to be X plays that put the Titans in a bad spot. It's literally what we saw from the Titans last week against the Green Bay Packers. Now, this Miami Dolphins team is not as good as the Green Bay Packers. That is the truth. All right. Their roster is not as good as the Green Bay Packers. But it doesn't matter if you let them run all over the place. It doesn't matter if you miss a bunch of tackles. You're going to make them look better. You're going to make it easier on the backup quarterback. You're going to make it easier on an offensive line that's a patchwork offensive line. You cannot allow the speed, skill guys of the Miami Dolphins to break tackles and gain extra yards. You get them on the ground as soon as they get the ball. They're going to gain yards, all right? They're going to catch the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're a football team. They're going to gain yards, but you can't make it easier on them by missing a bunch of tackles. If the Titans don't tackle better in this game, they will lose even bigger than, quite honestly, I'm expecting. But that's for the prediction section at the end of the show. The second key to victory for me for the Titans is to run the football. The Titans have to run the football better than they did last week and more than they did last week. In last week's game against the Green Bay Packers, the Tennessee Titans ran the football 11 times for 33 yards. If you look around the NFL right now and the way that teams are playing, the run game is back. That's just the reality of what we've seen throughout the first month of the NFL season. Teams are playing too high safety looks, and running the football is what you have to do against those looks. If the Tennessee Titans not only don't have success, but don't run the football enough, if they go away from the run game, they're not going to win this game because Miami has a talented secondary. with Jalen Ramsey and Javon Holland. They have some good pass rushers as well, like a Jalen Phillips. If the Titans don't run the ball and they get themselves in third and long situations and they try to pass the ball too much, then you're going to play into the hands of what the Miami Dolphins defense does best. You're going to play into the hands of the Miami Dolphins' best players on defense, and they simply can't do that. And not only would it be a mistake to attack the Dolphins in that way, for the Tennessee Titans' sake in this game, you got to take the ball out of Will Levis's hands. You can't let Will Levis and this offensive line beat you again. All right, I said it on Twitter this week before we knew that Tyler Huntley would be the quarterback for the Dolphins. I said it doesn't really matter who plays quarterback for the Dolphins because the Titans have been beating themselves. The game is between the Titans and the Titans. If the Titans don't beat themselves, they're going to win the game. But they're going to beat themselves if they put the ball in the hands of Will Levis and they put the ball in the hands of the offensive line. So the only way to avoid the Dolphins' most talented players while also taking the game away from your worst players is to run the football. Do not put this game on Will Levis and the offensive line. If you do that, you're going to lose because that's your worst players on offense. The Titans need to run the football early and often against this Miami front, okay? They need to run left. That would be great. But get the ball to Tony Pollard. Get the ball to Tajay Spears. Work the screen game. And look, the screen game isn't going to work if you don't, have a decent game script going. If the Titans are down big like they were last week, then teams are just going to sit on the screen entirely. But the Titans have to get the ball quickly to their running backs through the run game. And I would say not only the screen game, but can we get a swing pass? Can we get a jet sweep? Can we get some of those quick hitting plays to take the pressure off Will Levis and not ask him to throw the football too much? Take this game out of the hands of Will Levis. Take this game away from the offensive line having to pass block for long developing plays, long developing pass routes. Run the football, Titans. Run the football. Okay? And then the final key to victory for me is the same exact key to victory that I've had in week 2, the same exact key to victory that I've had in week 3. And it's going to remain the third key to victory until the Titans prove to me that they can actually accomplish it. Do not make massive mistakes. And that's part of the reason I want to take the ball out of Will Levis's hands. Just don't let Will Levis kill you in this game, Brian. Like, I'm looking at Coach Callahan. Do not let Will Levis kill you again, okay? Minimize Will Levis at all costs. So you can't have another massive mistake. And it's not just Will Levis. It's the offensive line. And that goes into what we were just saying when I was saying to run the football. And then finally, special teams. Special teams can't make another blunder. They avoided it last week, but they're going to need to avoid it again because Will Levis happens. Right tackle happens. Special teams happens. So if they can avoid a massive blunder from any of those 3 areas, from all of those 3 areas, the Titans are going to win this game. They should win this game. So if they don't do that, then they're going to lose again. They're going to drop to 0-4. They're going to head into the bye week knowing that their season is completely over. There's no playoffs. There's no winning record. And there are going to need to be some conversations going forward about what this roster needs and what they need to do as we head towards the trade deadline. But that's conversation for this week. We'll see what happens. But if the Titans don't do those 3 things, tackle, run the ball, and avoid a massive mistake, if they don't do those, they're going to lose again. So now we need to zoom in, talk about the players to watch in this game. And there are big matchups here that are going to decide whether the Titans can come out with a victory finally. Before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to buy tickets. They have some of the best features in the entire industry, and now they have a brand new one called Gametime Picks. That makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks is going to filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That's not the only great feature that they have. If you toggle on the feature in your app, you're going to get all-in pricing. So you know exactly what you're going to pay when you look at your tickets, and you don't have any surprise fees at checkout. You also get a panoramic view from your seat so you know what you're going to be looking at when you sit down. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Titans fans, let's continue today's preview of Monday Night Football, where the Tennessee Titans will travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins. We talked about my keys to victory in this matchup, but now I want to zoom in and talk about the players to watch in this game, the players that I think will decide this game. At the end of the show, I'm going to give you my score prediction for this matchup, my fantasy player to watch, and also talk about how I'm going to be betting on this game as well. Want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. This is the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world for a reason. Women lie, men lie, but the numbers don't. Make sure that you're with me when I go live immediately after the game ends on Monday Night Football. Going to be excited to break down this matchup. Well, hopefully, I'm excited to break down this matchup. But with that being said, we got to look at the players to watch in this game. And number one for me, I talked about it a little bit adjacently, we will say, in the first segment. But my number one player to watch is Tony Pollard. So I explained it. The Titans need to run the football. Last week, they did not give the ball to the running backs enough. You look at this offense. Where are the weaknesses? Quarterback, major weakness. Right tackle, major weakness. Right guard, major weakness. Left guard, sadly, pour one out for Pete, has been a weakness. Tight end, weakness. Okay? So what do? You get the ball to your best players as quickly and as early as possible, and that includes Tony Pollard. Now, players to watch, I only have 3 of them, but I would include Tyjae Spears in this as well. My players to watch are the running backs. That's my number one. Titans have to run the football. They have to run quick-hitting passing plays and get that ball in the hands of their running backs. Tony Pollard has been very solid early this season. He's in the top half of the NFL in rush yards over expected. He's a guy who I think has run physically. He's made more of what's been available to him than what the offensive line gave him. So I think that Tony Pollard is a guy that needs to be the focus of this game. Get him the ball, let him get to the edge, let him use his wiggle. He's been really good at setting up his blocks, being patient in the backfield, behind the line of scrimmage, waiting for things to show up. I showed a run from Tony Pollard last week where he made a nice little outside cut, then made a little inside cut, then back outside to set up his blockers. Tony Pollard needs to be a focus for the Titans in this game. I don't know about the health status of Tyjae Spears with the ankle. I think he plays in this game, but if Tyjae Spears is banged up still with the ankle, then that even puts a bigger spotlight on Tony Pollard and what he needs to do for this team. So Tony Pollard needs to get more than the offensive line is going to give him. Tony Pollard needs to be good in pass protection as well, which is a key factor here for the running backs. He's going to have to help this offensive line with chips and just when he's asked to stay in and block himself anyways. So, and also, Will Levis has to check it down to Tony Pollard quite a bit. I think the Dolphins are going to look to not let Will Levis have anything deep and look to rally up and hope that their pass rush can get there, which is a formula that works at this point right now. So Tony Pollard has to be a key factor in this game for the Tennessee Titans. My second player to watch is L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed has another primetime matchup here with a player who, quite honestly, the most famous performance in L'Jarius Sneed's career so far has been against Tyreek Hill. Everybody has seen that viral clip of L'Jarius Sneed pressing Tyreek Hill and driving him into the ground. That's great. I love that, and hopefully L'Jarius Sneed can do that. But he doesn't even need to do that. You just can't let Tyreek Hill be the guy that beat you. Because no matter what, whether it's a backup quarterback, whether it's Tua, Tyreek Hill is the guy that can destroy the game. We saw that in the Jaguars game week 1 in Miami Dolphins. The Jaguars fumble at the goal line instead of going in and scoring to end the game 24-3. And then immediately the next play, Tyreek Hill breaks off an 80-yard touchdown. All right, Tyreek Hill cannot take advantage of L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed needs to win that matchup. This is what he was paid for. When the Titans traded L'Jarius Sneed for L'Jarius Sneed for a third-round pick, when the Titans gave L'Jarius Sneed $76 million, it was for these matchups right here. prime time, number one wide receiver, elite on elite matchups. This is what L'Jarius Sneed is here for. So if L'Jarius Sneed can't win this matchup for the Titans and Tyreek Hill gets off, well, then the Titans are going to be in trouble. It's going to lead directly to a loss. So L'Jarius Sneed, I think L'Jarius Sneed has been okay this year. I think he's been better than what some other people are saying. I think that's a reality. But also at the same time, you look on tape, he has gotten beat here and there. He has been beat by his man, and maybe the ball didn't go to him. There are a couple of instances, I think back to week 1 against Chicago, where DJ Moore left L'Jarius Sneed in the dust. Now, he didn't get the ball because Caleb Williams is playing very, very poorly right now as a rookie quarterback. But the reality is Sneed has not, he's been good, in my opinion, but he hasn't lived up to his contract yet. He could take a big step this week and earning that money by shutting down Tyreek Hill and basically forcing the Miami Dolphins to beat them with other people. Make Jalen Waddle beat you. Make the running backs beat you. And then if the Titans tackle, like we talked about in the first segment, then they're going to be just fine. But you let Tyreek Hill go nuts on L'Jarius Sneed, it's only going to result in problems. And L'Jarius Sneed needs to shadow Tyreek Hill in this game, even more so because Chido Awuzie was finally put on injured reserve. We talked about that earlier this week, that was probably going to happen. That did happen. So Chido is on IR with a groin injury, and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is a guy who's going to be stepping into the lineup. I think that JBJ can be a good player, but he's still a rookie, and I don't want JBJ playing against Tyreek Hill. L'Jarius Sneed needs to travel with Tyreek Hill all over the field all night long. So that's a primetime matchup to watch. The final player to watch, we don't know who it's going to be yet. Brian Callahan said that the competition was going into Saturday's practice. Remember, the Titans usually practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but because it's Monday night, they practiced Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay. So my third player to watch here is the right tackle. Whoever plays right tackle, whoever that happens to be, whether it's Nicholas Petit-Frere, who has been the worst offensive tackle in the NFL so far through 3 weeks, whether it's Jalen Duncan, who I honestly think is worse than Nicholas Petit-Frere, whoever they end up going with, they have to not be a disaster. Like, I don't even need them to be good. I don't even need them to be great. Just don't be a disaster. Just don't be out there whiffing like Jalen Duncan did. Don't be out there doing the splits like NPF did. Like, the Titans just aren't going to be able to have any semblance of offense if the right tackle position is just an absolute disaster. Again, they just have to avoid disaster. That's all it really comes down to here. So whether they go with MPF, whether they go with Jalen Duncan, either way, it's not going to be good. But let's just hope it's not a disaster situation, because Jalen Phillips, who has been coming back slow off his major injury last year, Jalen Phillips is still a really good player for the Dolphins. And it's going to be a handful for these right tackles no matter what. So that's my players to watch. Let me know your keys to victory. Let me know your players to watch. Now I'm going to go into my predictions for this game. What's the score going to be in this game? Who is going to be the fantasy player of the week? How am I betting this game? I'm going to answer all those questions right now. Before I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, Titans fans. Yep, I'm talking to you, Titans fans. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Right now, the Titans are 2.5-point underdogs against the Dolphins. The over-under is 37.5. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with those numbers, but make sure that you go to America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. Titans fans, let's cap off today's preview of the Titans Monday Night Football game against the Miami Dolphins. I'll be here live after the game ends to break down all of the action. Also want to let you guys know that I am the new lead host of the Locked On NFL podcast. You can find that here on YouTube. You can find it on any podcast app. Basically, you get all your Titans news here with me, so get all your NFL news with me on Locked On NFL. I would appreciate your guys' support over there. But with that being said, got to get into my predictions for this game. And most of you guys who have been my everydayers, who have been watching me for a while, you could probably guess, based on my tone throughout this episode, what I think happens in this game. And as I said at the beginning of the show, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, if you clicked on YouTube, I do not trust this Titans team. And if you follow me on Twitter at TicTacTitans, I told you last week after that Green Bay Packers game that until the Titans win a football game, I will never pick them to win a game the rest of the season. Period. You cannot trust this team to not be morons. This is a stupid football team. They make stupid mistakes all over the field. And quite honestly, Rand Carthon deserves a ton of blame. Right tackle, they just sat on their hands and said, we don't need to bring in a veteran. We don't need to address it in free agency. We'll roll with NPF and Jalen Duncan and John Ajuku. So that's on Rand Carthon. Also, the Titans are weak on the edge. Perimeter runs have destroyed the Titans all year long. And that is on Rand Carthon, who did not bring in a physical edge rusher, who did not bring in any backup at the edge. He said, you know what, Arden Key and a 7th round rookie, that's fine. That's fine. They even cut Rashad Weaver. We don't need him. All right, Rand. Well, quarterback, offensive tackle, right tackle, and edge rush have been the biggest problems with this team outside of special teams. So, quarterback, I don't blame Rand Carthon. They had to give Will Levis a chance. They had to ride with Will Levis this year, and they still need to the rest of the year just to be absolutely certain that he's as bad as he looks. But right tackle and edge were obvious holes on this team. Rand Carthon did nothing about it, and now they're getting exploited there every single week. So, with that being said, Miami has speed and is going to run to the perimeter. Jalen Phillips is a good player and will dominate whoever the right tackle is. I have the Tennessee Titans losing this game 20-13. Snoop Huntley, Tyler Huntley, is going to play quarterback for the Dolphins. He is from South Florida. He was a Dolphins fan. He has said that he has always dreamed of playing for the Miami Dolphins and starting at quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. The story coming out of this game will be Snoop Huntley lived his greatest dream. He started a game for the Miami Dolphins and led them to a victory. And once again, I compare it to Hercules. If you guys have ever seen the animated Disney movie Hercules, at the very beginning, after Hercules grows up and he wants to become a hero, he's traveling to the city where there's so much problems and he's going to go be the hero there. But on his way, he runs into Meg, and Meg is being attacked by a centaur. Well, the centaur is a footnote in Hercules' story. The centaur is an opportunity for Hercules early in the movie to prove he's got what he's made of. He struggles early on with them, but he comes out on top. The Tennessee Titans have historically been the centaur. They aren't even the bad villain at the end. They're the footnote villain at the beginning of the movie to let the hero endear himself to the audience. That's what the Titans are. The Titans are a stepping stone in other teams' happy stories. And that's what they're going to be on Monday night once again. It's going to be Tyler Huntley's dream come true. And the Titans are just fodder for other teams to have happiness. So 20-13, the Titans lose to the Miami Dolphins. Will Levis will ruin it again with another big mistake. Now, moving to the fantasy football aspect of this, my beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy player of the week is Tony Pollard. I already talked about it with Tony Pollard. I think the Titans are going to have to run the football. I think they're going to have to run the screen game. They're going to have to swing the ball out to Tony Pollard a ton. Take the ball out of Will Levis's hands and don't let him stab you in the heart once again. Give the ball to Tony Pollard early and often and hope and pray that that's good enough to get the victory, because we know doing it the other way, throwing the ball a ton and giving it to Will, that's how you lose, 40-13 or whatever it was last week. That's how you lose like that. So don't make it easy on the Dolphins and don't give the ball to Will. Give it to Tony Pollard. And then finally, keeping it plus 100, the Titans right now are 2.5-point underdogs. I'm not touching that. There's no way. Like I said, I think the Titans lose by a score or more. So I am not touching that spread at all. What I will tell you is I like the over-under. I like the 37.5 over-under. I think that I'm going to hammer that, if I'm honest with you guys. I don't think there's any way unless Will really self-destructs out there, there's no way that this game is going over. The Titans can't score more than 30 or 17 points. So even if they win 17-16, that's only 33. And 20-13, like I think, is only 33. There's no way this is going over 37. There's just no way. So with that being said, though, that is my preview. Let me know down below what you think the score of this game is going to be. I'll see you guys on Monday night after the game. I'll be live here on the Locked On Titans podcast. But that is going to do it for me today, folks. Throw a thumbs up on the video. Throw a tighten up down in the chat. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.